Callum, I suppose so far it's been a pretty extraordinary final series. After the match, you seemed a bit shocked. How long did it take to sit in that you've been able to pull off that great win and now focus on the Stars?
Yeah, no, it was an emotional roller coaster out there. There's no doubt about that. Certainly, it was a game that ebbed and flowed from ball one, really. So to get over that game in front of a pretty parochial Adelaide crowd, which I'm very familiar with, it was really nice to come away with a win for the second time in a row there this season. And we feel like with 2 away wins in a row, we've got some real momentum.
What did you take out of that match that you were able to come home with such a wet sail?
Oh, look, I feel like we were headed a few times throughout the game. Certainly, it's a strong strikers lineup, so we knew that it wasn't going to be an easy game over there, especially in Adelaide. So for us to be headed a few times in both innings and to come through with a defendable score, batting first on a slightly slower than usual Adelaide wicket, and then be able to defend it the way we did once. Certainly, they looked like they were starting to get on top with that partnership in the middle overs with Carey and Wells. To be able to bounce back and then close out the game as well as we did in the last few overs was a fantastic effort.
Callum, does the momentum going into this match mean much? The Stars have been struggling of late. You're able to gain momentum by winning and staying in the finals. Does that give you much of an advantage tomorrow?
Oh, look, we feel like from our end we've got some confidence in our game. Certainly, we feel like we're playing a strong finals brand of cricket at the moment, so we'll go in with a lot of confidence. They're a very good side, the Melbourne Stars, so we know we're going to have to be very well near our best to get over the line, but certainly the way that we've been able to overcome some hurdles throughout the season, we feel like we're ready for the challenge.
Given how much pressure they're under and they've been carrying this chokers tag the whole way through, is that something that you can use to your advantage, do you think?
Look, I think we prefer to focus on ourselves. Certainly we're very aware of the fact that they haven't been at their best in the last little bit, but we know how threatening they are throughout their order with the bat and ball. So they're certainly a side that we know we're going to have to be at near our best to get over the line against. It's always a big challenge coming to the MCG against them, but certainly we'll come in with a lot of confidence.
What plans have you got in place for Maxi and Stoinis?
We will obviously sit down and go through that this afternoon, not obviously, but certainly there's a bit of work to do with regards to planning. But with this side, with our side, we do our due diligence and make sure that we're across everything that we need to be against such a formidable lineup. We'll focus on the entire side, not just a couple of individuals.
You were right in the game against the Stars in the MCG a few weeks ago until Harris Ralph sort of tore through you guys. What did you learn from that game you're going to take forward into this one?
Yeah, look, we're understanding of the threats that they've got, and Harris Ralph is one of those threats. We felt like we were probably 15 to 20 short in that game, but certainly again we fought really, really hard throughout the entire game and took it right down to the wire with the ball. So we feel like we'll learn a little bit out of how to play on that wicket and perhaps the way you need to structure your batting innings if you are batting first to maximise those conditions and give yourself every chance bowling second. Certainly they bowl well to those conditions. They've got some high quality spin bowlers which if it is a slightly slower wicket at the MCG, those guys will come into their own. However, we have played spin quite well throughout the tournament, so we'll try and make sure we're at our best in all facets of the game.
Okay, there's been a bit of discussion about, other than Maxi and Stoinis, they haven't got a lot of production out of the rest of their batting lineup. Do you agree with that they're probably a bit too reliant on those two?
Look, I think you find throughout the competition that all sides have their strengths and weaknesses. What they have got in and around those guys are flexibility with their batting order, so we expect they'll probably make a couple of changes to try and jolt a bit of energy into that batting order. However, when that side is at their best, one of those two bats right through the innings. We've got to try and prevent that as much as possible and try and pick up, the guys that are the linchpins like Stoinis and Maxwell as early as possible to put some pressure on those other guys.
With the pressure on their batting lineup, would there be any temptation to sort of stick him in and try and get him under pressure straight away?
We'll have a look at the wicket when we get down there to try and work out whether we want to bat first or bowl first. We feel like we've done both really well throughout the tournament, so we're not too phased as to whether we bat or bowl first too much, but certainly we will have a look at the conditions and see if we can gain an advantage.
Something you've been able to do obviously at the top is get a lot out of Alex Hales, and his combination with Usman's been pretty important in these two finals.
Yeah, it has been so far. Those two at the top have been fantastic for us. Alex Hales has really come into his own in the back half of the tournament, and Usman's been chipping in quite nicely in and around him. That partnership is waxing quite nicely, so ideally we get a bit of a start out of those guys, but certainly our top four have been able to, throughout the tournament, put together some really match-winning combinations at times and contributions. So we don't want to put too much pressure on those two, because we feel like we've got weapons all the way through the batting list.
Alex has been able to kind of work his way into the tournament and now have a really good run of consistent form. There's not too many of the overseas guys who've been able to play the whole tournament. Do you think that's worked to his advantage?
Absolutely. I think Alex being able to be here for the entire tournament, has certainly helped him. Obviously batting in sides that you haven't played with before can be a little bit tricky to start with, just finding your feet, getting to know the guys you're batting with. We feel like we've got good continuity in our top five in particular, and we feel like we're starting to hit our straps at the right time. Alex is a world-class cricket player, and we certainly know that we thought that he was going to really have an impact this season, and the way he's come through with the goods in the last sort of 5-6 weeks has been outstanding, and certainly been a fantastic contributor for us.
Could you think of a moment where it did start to click for him over the course of the tournament in terms of, I suppose, getting familiar, as you put it?
Yeah, look, it's a funny game, T20 cricket. You can be playing well and not necessarily be getting the rewards, and I felt like he's been playing really well throughout the tournament. He started to really see the rewards at the back end of the tournament, which is great for everyone involved. But certainly I thought the game that he and Uzi chased down the majority of the runs against the Renegades in Geelong, I felt like that was when they really started to gain some momentum as a partnership and a good understanding of the way each other plays. And certainly, between the two of them, they've been able to put together some significant contributions, and that's what you ask for out of your top four, in particular your top three. So to see that from those guys has been outstanding.
After locking up top spot, the Stars probably tinkered with their side a little bit leading into the finals. Do you think it's a bit of a lesson not to mess with a winning formula?
Yeah, look, I feel like they were forced into a few changes. Obviously with Ralph going away and the ODI series going on overseas, that's going to happen at times. So we're all understanding of that around the competition. It can make it tricky. We ran into some similar hurdles throughout the season that were unforeseen. We had a couple of injuries to some quicks at the start of the season, had a couple of new guys in the side. So it takes a bit of time to find your rhythm again, and then obviously Greeny going out throughout the middle of the season as well. So we had to find our mojo and our continuity again, and that's probably what the Stars have had to battle a little bit recently. So we've been there, we know what it's like. We've just got to try and put as much pressure on that bowling lineup as we possibly can, take our opportunities when they come.
Has coming from fifth been a nice thing in terms of it's a new system, everyone's getting used to it, but obviously the side that didn't get a chance in the previous 8 BBLs, you've been able to take it a long way? Yeah,
look, we felt like, not to the point where we had nothing to lose, but certainly we got a spot that wasn't there previously, and we felt like we'd played well enough to stitch up a top 4 spot throughout the regular season. Anyway, we felt like we had the better of 7 games out of the 14, so we felt like we deserved our spot, and we felt like we were playing well enough to take the tournament out if we did put our best cricket on the park, and that's not all that easy to come up with, but certainly we feel like we're starting to hit our straps at the right end of the tournament, and we've got a lot of confidence on the back of 2 away wins, which have been, in my eyes, really impressive wins, in the way that my team has been able to stand up in some high pressure situations. I couldn't be prouder of the guys so far, and we're really keen to take our game to another level over the next couple of games if we're lucky enough to play 2.
What is it about this group that gives you that belief? I mean, as you say, to go into a hostile environment in a finals game and to be able to stand up like that, you clearly don't mind your backs against the wall. Yeah,
we talked about in the change rooms after a couple of games throughout the tournament when we'd been in some high pressure situations, a little bit like the game against the Sixers at the SCG. It was a super over, obviously, and we talked a lot about how that high pressure situation and a couple of the other ones we'd been involved in early in the tournament was going to really hold us in good stead going down the stretch at the back end of the tournament. So having been involved in quite a few more high pressure situations since then, the way certainly the bowlers have stood up for us under the pump, bowling late in games, the way our batters have been able to finish off a few games at different stages, when it's gotten tight, you know, that gives us a lot of belief that when it comes to another situation where, you know, you're under the pump, we're coming through those situations, we're thinking clearly, we're communicating really well, and that gives us a lot of confidence going into a big game like this one at the MCG.
It's not hard for you to, I guess, think too much past tomorrow night as a player, but if you put your broader cricket hat on, how do you feel about the fact that they weren't willing to relocate the grand final, you know, with the inclement weather pretty much guaranteed to affect the game? Would you have liked to have seen a shifted venue to guard against that?
Not really, no. I feel like the integrity of cricket is probably on the foremost importance to everyone involved in this tournament, and the fact that the Sixers have earned the right to host, I don't believe we can afford to start mucking around with that sort of stuff. So I know it'd be disappointing if the rain did come in. Everyone keeps telling me about the wonderful Sydney weather. You know, it's a bit hit and miss, isn't it? But certainly I believe that the integrity of the game is of the utmost importance, and the Sixers have earned the right to host, so they host.
So for such a big game, should there be a carryover day? It's a bit like they're having World Cup and World Cup finals, just in case something like this. You play for what, 6-8 weeks, and then could be washed out.
Yeah, I absolutely believe there needs to be a reserve day. So, look, at the moment it is what it is, and I believe we've got the right system, barring maybe a reserve day. We need to make sure that you know, we give it every chance of being played.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Callum.
Nice work, guys. Thank you. Easy. Good to see you, mate.